Hi my love, Shé here. As I've promised, I'm starting to do, on Saturday mornings, I'm going to do a herbal live. So I'm going to talk to you about herbal remedies, herbal medicines. Ashwaganda is fantastic. It's one of my favorite herbs to recommend. And much to my shock and surprise, I actually saw it advertised in pill form on TV the other day. I've been telling people about ashwaganda easily for 25 years. It's one of the sacred Ayurvedic herbs, and it has heaps of uses, but not what they said on the commercial on TV. It is a general tonic. It is considered to be Indian ginseng because it's good for so many things. But the reason why it's good for so many things is its basic function is that it is a hormone balancer. Now, if you have a look on PubMed, you can quite easily, last time I looked, I located 216 studies on its hormonal balancing properties. I don't know why they're not telling people about this, but again, like everything else that's wonderfully useful in a herbal medical tradition, I guess they're trying to isolate the active components so that they can register it and make money out of it. But we saw that with valerian. Valerian, they take the active components out of it, make Valium, and we have a whole generation of housewives in the 60s and 70s that were very poor parents because, the doctors, as soon as they were under stress, gave them Valium. Whereas if they'd used the valerian, there would have been a more balanced reaction. Anyway, we're not here to talk about valerian. We'll do that next time. We're going to talk about ashwagandha. So ashwagandha, I found it useful for things like I share it with people and they have found it useful for things like menopause, menstruation, puberty, when you want to strangle your kids because they're just being insane and you don't know why. Puberty is such a hard time for kids, and I don't know why adults don't remember. I wouldn't be 17, 16, 15, 14, 12 to 17, horrid years. All of these new emotions start running around in your body. And why? Because as puberty kicks in, stimulates your pineal and your pituitary glands, your psychic abilities open, you become far more aware of what people are thinking and feeling around you. You're trying to cope with all your new social skills, and you've got all of these hormones inciting new emotions in you. Right? You're experiencing, erotic love for the first time and experimenting with that. And at the same time, your skin breaks out, you can't sleep properly, your sleep cycle changes. All of these things are triggered by your hormones. And then if you go to rave parties, right, and then have eckies as well, which I never did. I was sort of the generation after me. But the eckies will muck around your hormones as well. That's what ecstasy tablets were designed to do. Did you know that ecstasy was originally designed by the military as a crowd control substance? They were supposed to spray it into the air as a crowd control substance to make everybody lovey and huggy. But the thing is, when you muck around with your serotonin, melatonin levels, which these blue flashing light screens also do, which makes you stay awake a lot at night, it's very hard to get those hormones to balance up again. Ashwagandha helps with that. And kids that are suffering with the Tuesday blues after going to a rave party the night before have found ashwagandha really useful in helping restore that hormonal balance of the serotonin, melatonin levels. Menopause and menstruation, it's just a godsend. If you're suffering from hot flashes, traditionally, Ayurvedically, it is one of the best things that you can do. And I can tell you in my personal case, with the ashwagandha, I got one hot flush, started taking the ashwagandha, and I really do not suffer from it. I remember my adopted mother, suffering terribly from hot flashes and hot flushes. Yeah, I don't get them. Right, that are suffering infertility, erectile dysfunction, and male midlife crisis as well. Men, I'm sorry to tell you this, but you have hormones too, and a lot of guys forget this. Right? Women, our hormonal cycle is very obvious because we, from puberty, have a 28-day cycle, on average. When I very first got my period, it was a 21-day cycle. Right? And if I'd had ashwagandha then, that would have helped even out that cycle for me. But men have a 60-day cycle. So women, if you've noticed that your man gets a bit aggressive every 2 months, that's because of his 60-day cycle. I'm sure he doesn't enjoy being like that either. It is very easy to help take. So what ashwagandha does is it talks to the nervous system. It communicates with the nervous system, and where we have hormonal highs and hormonal, these are what the studies say. This is not me saying it. This is what those 216 studies have come to the conclusion of. That where we have the hormonal highs and the hormonal lows, what ashwagandha does is it seems to take the top and the low off those highs, so that it brings your body back to a nice balance, which a lot of antidepressants try to do, but they force the hormones into a direction so far that people don't experience emotion. You don't get that side effect with ashwagandha. You just don't get the extremes that come with a hormone-fueled boost of emotion. But men with erectile dysfunction, I have seen them at Mind Body Spirit festivals where they've come self-treated, bought some ashwagandha off me, and then haven't seen them for a couple of years. They run into me 2 years later, 3 years later, hug me, kiss me, because it really changed their life in such a positive way. Right? And that's what we're looking for. Things with our herbal treatments, our food becoming our medicine, so that it enhances our life instead of damaging our life. So many things in our packet foods today muck around with our hormonal cycle. There are so many hormones put into foods these days. You know, you've got to start becoming a label reader if you're going to look after your health, and try and avoid things that have hormones in it, because it's going to knock you around emotionally as well as physically. Nearly all of the major functions within our body are triggered by hormonal reactions, including diabetes, right? The reaction of the adrenals, right, that brings about the sugar intolerance within our system that leads to diabetes, is because of the packet foods being overdosed with sugar, right, which then leads to a hormonal imbalance. And some people who have diabetes have found that the use of ashwagandha really assists them to bring that hormonal level back up, where their bodies are again coping with the sugar that get in their diet. And you can tell I'm trying to be very politically correct about talking about this, but we all know why people become diabetic. Sugar affects the hormones that metabolize sugar in the body when you eat it, to the point where eventually it just gives up. And ashwagandha seems to stimulate that again, so it starts to work again. You do that, combine it with really good stomach probiotics, and I've seen people with type 2 diabetes make remarkable recoveries. Do people with type 2 diabetes know that it's not necessarily a life sentence, that you can do things to greatly enhance and correct type 2 diabetes? Type 1 not so much, because that tends to be something that you're born with, that, you know, it's one of those conditions right from birth. But type 2 diabetes, don't give up. You can actually take control of your own health, and you can start to do things to really control it. Right? Of course, if you're getting any sort of treatment from your doctor, don't go off that treatment. And you should discuss herbal treatments with your doctors. There are many aware doctors these days. I mean, my husband at the moment is been seen a couple of times for his blood pressure medication by not his regular doctor. He's seen an Indian doctor. But he's been able to discuss a lot of Ayurvedic treatments with this doctor, because this doctor is aware of alternative medicine in his country, because in India, alternative medicine isn't so alternative. And ashwagandha comes from the Ayurvedic system, which is Indian. And in India, you know, you can study Ayurveda as part of your medical course. So they understand the effect of herbs on the human system. Many doctors do. If you're receiving thyroid medication, thyroxine and things like that, before you start ashwagandha, please discuss this with your doctor, because it depends what levels and what doses he's using the thyroxine to either push it up or down, because the ashwagandha will then try and correct what the medicine is that he's giving you about which way is pushing you. But if in the early stages of thyroid dysfunction, ashwagandha can prove very effective and very useful in enhancing your life around that. Am I being, using all the correct terms, am I being politically correct? Because, I'm not allowed to prescribe anything. But I can tell you what the studies have said. I can tell you what I've seen other people do when they prescribe these things. And I can certainly tell you what's happened for me. Ashwagandha really is one of those things that is a godsend, and it's so good that it's finally starting to come into Western herbal medicine. So this is what this is ashwagandha grains. I'll try and hold it closer to the screen so you can see it. I know the screen doesn't always focus, but that's the grains of the root. The active part of the ashwagandha is the root of the plant. And that's the problem with a lot of these tablets, is the tablets will sometimes say leaves and flowers, right? But the leaves and flowers aren't the active part, it's the root. The root is the active part that has the active ingredient in a healer. And he will not only tell you to use the right part of the plant, he will also tell you to use plants grown in a particular area in a particular way, getting a particular amount of sunshine, and then he might even say just use the bark on one side. So this is the ashwagandha that we sell. So I have the powder and I have the grains. The grains is great to make a tea out of, right? The powder is good to put in your food. So if you're a lady who cooks for her family, or a gentleman who cooks for a family, and you've got teenage children, you can put the ashwagandha in the evening meal or in the meals that you prepare. And you'll find a great relief. Your child will have a great relief. If your husband is busy and he's having hormonal issues, you can put it in the food. It doesn't negatively affect anybody. All it does is it brings back that balance. So if you're not having a hormonal extreme, ashwagandha essentially doesn't affect you, right? Of course, with all things, I don't recommend that pregnant ladies or breastfeeding ladies take it, especially because pregnancy and breastfeeding are so dependent on your hormonal cycles. So you don't want to take this. Although people who have been trying to fall pregnant with infertility that has been hormonally based have found that this has worked quite well for them to help restore their hormonal cycles. Amazing stuff. All right, so with this one, this is my favorite way of taking it, is I like to have it as a tea. You can just put a few grains in the bottom of a cup. They float for a while and then sink to the bottom. And it's got such a mild flavor. It's really hardly detectable. I actually quite like that mild flavor. It's a little bit dusty. It's more of a slight aroma, but not a bad aroma. And I found when I very first, with my onset of menopause, I used to just put a few grains in a cup. It also worked really well for my monthly migraines that I used to get. I found if I had this just before the time of my monthly migraines, while I was still having my menstruation cycle, it would actually help me not get those migraines. And I got the big corona ones that block out your vision. So those sorts of things, these are brilliant for. People with acne can actually make a face wash, or they can actually get the powder, the fine powder, and just rub it on the acne, and it helps bring it. We've had people who have had hormonal dermatitis, right? If they have that eczema on their hands or somewhere on their body, they would just get the powder and just rub it lightly on and just leave it. It does make the skin a little bit dry, but this doesn't appear to be a bad thing, right? Especially if the eczema starts to clear up. Anyway, with all herbal things, right, you must try them for yourself. Everybody's body chemistry is slightly different, right? And there is no single fixed cure for everybody, right? Some people will find that a little bit is good and that's enough. Some people will find that they'll have to use a little bit more. I have some workmen who are battling with different hormonal situations, and they just take some of the powder, they sprinkle it on their Subway for lunch, and that's enough for them every day, right? But generally with hormonal things, you want to keep a level in the system for, at least one of your hormonal cycles if you're trying to correct something. So that means try and keep it in there at least 3 times a day, and a little bit more often is much better than a lot once a day. So this is what I would like you to do. If you'd like to win, we're going to give away 1 packet of powder and 1 packet of the grains for the tea. So if you'd like to win a packet, what I would like you to do is in the comments below, just write something that you would like to use it for, something that you feel it may work with. This also gives us a chance to discuss it with you. People who have used ashwagandha before who are listening to this, you can certainly comment. And the sharing of information about herbal medicines is a brilliant way to go. As with everything, I always tell people to have a look. The research is out there. It is easy for most of us to be able to access studies that are on PubMed. And the studies on PubMed, when you look at the research about ashwagandha, the studies are like, oh my God, why didn't somebody tell us about this years ago? Because the results, when they do the studies, are quite astounding. So do your own research. Never believe anything that somebody just tells you for telling's sake. You must always check your information and then see how that works for you, how it fits with you. Right? This is what being in control of your own health is all about. We must never allow the ability to be able to work with our own health be taken away from us and be relegated to somebody in authority who's bringing down rulings with an agenda for so many studies get backed by drug companies these days. They're funded by drug companies with a vested interest in a particular result. So we don't want a ruling made on a study with a vested interest to be placed arbitrarily on us. We want to be able to retain that right to be in charge of our own health, right? And with a lot of things, I mean, most people who know me know that I haven't been sick as long as they've known me. So I haven't been to a doctor apart from minor accidents for over 10 years. Because I maintain my health. I take responsibility for it. I'm safe. And I don't get flus. I don't get sick. I travel all over the world. I don't get vomiting. I don't get diarrhea. I eat the local food. Yeah, it's not, I've had people go, oh yeah, that's just because you get used to the bugs in the local area. No, I'm quite a traveller. All right, my love, so ashwagandha. So that's what we're talking about today. So we have the powder and the grains. So tell me below if you think you'd prefer the powder or the grains, what you would like to use it for, and how you would like to use it. The best answers will win a packet of either grains or the powder free, and I'll post that to you. So comment below, let me know how, if you've used it before. I'd love to hear how it's worked for you. We've had so many people that have used the ashwagandha and are still using it and have had brilliant results. So share that with other people below so that they can see how it worked for you, not just that it did. These days, research, they used to go, oh no, that's just anecdotal research. But these days, universities are all using what they're calling crowd research, where they're getting people to, the bogor moth thing, take a photo of the bogor moths in your area, right? So they're starting to get an idea of where things are, right? But they're also putting things out and getting people in different groups to do control studies for them. Please take this for so many days and tell us the results. This is just another example of that. So go for it with your ashwagandha. If you'd like to win one, you know what to do. And stay tuned next Saturday. I'd love to share more herbal information with you. Traditional herbals is what I call it. I come from a lady who practiced a 20,000-year-old herbal tradition. And it certainly seems to have worked for most people for 20,000 years. And haven't lost anybody yet. Yeah, think about that. It's something like in America, there are 100,000 people die every year from medical malpractice. How many people die from herbal malpractice? Right? I think since the 1970s, there's been 2 in Australia, and one was because one of the herbs were contaminated with bacteria, and that was the tryptophan, which wasn't even a herb, it was a refined tablet. Right? So look, herbs can be dangerous. You know, most of our natural poisons do come from herbs, right? But we're not talking about something that's poisonous here. Anything can kill you, right? Too much water can kill you. If you drink it too fast, you'll water down your bloodstream, or if you submerge yourself in it, you'll drown. So, you know, with all things, use your common sense, be balanced, right? And see if it works for you. All right, if you're interested and you're willing and you want to win a packet, let me know down below. If you want to contact me about this, I'll put my phone number in up the top there, or just go to my website www.shedmontford.com, right, and send me a message. All right, my loves, every blessing to you on your journey. Mwah! Be strong, be healthy, be joyful, be happy. See you next time.